we have a bit of a funny relationship with kindness, because I think kindness is something that we praise on the one hand. Hallmark cards it's got this sort of nice, sympathetic idea to it. But then on the other hand, I think we also think that kindness is a version of weakness. Or we're worried to be kind because of what kindness might cost us in the long run. However we view kindness, the truth is that kindness is one of the fruit of the Spirit. It's something that God produces in us when we become a Christian. It's part of Christian character. And the reason that it's a part of Christian character, it's one of the fruit of the Spirit, is because God himself is a kind God. In the same way that God is a loving God and a joyful God and a peaceful God, God is a kind God. Which I think is a really interesting thing to think about, because when you picture what gods are like, most gods, I think you wouldn't conclude that most gods would be kind. You know, you think about the gods that have been created throughout the history of the world. It's very rare that they've been kind gods. And I think this is because people create these gods in their mind from what they see in the world around them. Imagine that you've been watching a powerful wave roll into the shore, or the vastness of the sky, or the violence of a storm. It's all so powerful. It's unlikely that you're going to look at those things and think, God must be kind. And yet, the God of the Bible, the God that we believe in, he is a kind God. Psalm 145 says, "The Lord is gracious and compassionate. He's slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love." In verse 9 of that psalm, it says, "The Lord is good to all. He has compassion on all that he has made. The Lord upholds all who fall and lifts up all who bow down." That's what our God is like. He is compassionate. We see the compassion of God, the kindness of God on great display when we look at the life of Jesus. Jesus was kind to people who probably would have been very taxing to hang around with. Disabled people, people who were excluded from society, the tax collectors, the sinners. He was very kind to these people. In fact, Jesus told a parable about kindness, the parable of the Good Samaritan, where he essentially said that the way that we should treat even those who would be treated, who will probably be thought of as our enemies, we should treat them with kindness. We should give them medical care. We should take care of them. We should be ultimately kind to them. And so if we want to be kind, to people who produce the fruit of kindness, we begin by looking at our God, who is ultimately kind. So I want you to take a few moments and I want you to think about this. How has God been kind to you? How has God been kind to you? I just got off a Zoom call with Graham and Sarah Edwards, who are awaiting their travel exemption so that they can go to Ireland. They're planning to fly out on Tuesday, and it's Friday afternoon and they're still waiting for their exemption to come. It's very stressful for them. And please be praying about that. But the whole conversation, and every conversation that I have with Graham and Sarah, they're always pouring out comments about God's kindness to them. No matter what they're waiting for, no matter how difficult their situation is, they know about his kindness. They can point at his kindness in their lives. It's a discipline to do that kind of thing. And I wonder if you have ever fostered that discipline in your life. How has God been kind to you? Another way that we can produce kindness in our lives is by reflecting on the kindness that other people have given us. I think about the times in my life where people have been kind to me. I think about the kind of experiences that I had when I was in high school. I remember my youth group leader organizing Wednesday afternoon touch footy games just for the boys to play together so that we could build friendships. He worked a full-time job. He probably didn't want to hang out with high school kids on a Wednesday afternoon, but he was kind to us in that way. He was giving of his time for us. Another example of kindness that I think about is when people, unsolicited, they send me nice text messages just to tell me that I'm doing a good job, or to say that they appreciate something that that I've said, or something that I've done, or a way that I've got around their kid, or helped them with something, whatever it happens to be. Sometimes it's not because of anything in particular I did. They just send me a kind message to encourage me. As we reflect on our experiences of kindness, that should help us to think about ways that we can be kind to others. And I think that the beautiful opportunity that we have in our church is that we have each other to rehearse our kindness on, and to rehearse our forgiveness on, and to rehearse our patience on, and all those sorts of things. But we get to rehearse our kindness on each other as well. It's kind of like a dry run, a little test run before we go and rehearse our kindness in the world as well. So how can we rehearse our kindness on the people in our church with us? So I encourage you to go and be people who are full of kindness, because we worship a kind God.